Hi, Andre.
Hey, Mum, how's it
Great
going?
to see you again.
You too?
So, today we're going to be talking about a really interesting subject, and it's about your psychic senses.
Okay. Well, let's start from the start.
Yes,
What are psychic senses?
they are actually, to be honest, the language of spirit. So, the only way I talk about spirits have said this to me, they've said that to me. So, they are the only form of communication that spirit world can actually communicate. But they are a psychic sense. They're not necessarily a spiritual sense or a psychic sense.
Okay, so when I think of senses, I think smell, touch, hear, taste.
You're right onto it.
Tell me more about what psychic senses are.
Okay, so I think that it's something to formulate and to develop and to grow with. And I think, like everything, it always goes back to basics. And I think when people develop psychically or mediumistically, they want to go right ahead. But it always goes back to the basics. So I think they're so important. So when you see a psychic or a medium or you watch someone like that, they often say, I feel, I see, I hear, because they're actually working with their senses. So you're quite 100% right. So one of the first one I want to go with is called clairvoyance. So people often call people a clairvoyant,
Mm-hmm.
which is basically clear seeing. So a lot of people have heard about like the third eye. So what clairvoyance is that if you imagine something, so you can imagine something. So if I said to you, can you see a pink elephant? If you can imagine a pink elephant. So that's like creates a picture in your mind and your imagination, your third eye.
Mm-hmm.
So basically the psychic sense is like that. So it's like getting a vision.
Okay.
So you get a vision of something. So for instance, when I'm working psychically with somebody, I've spoken before, is I may look at their aura and I may see a disturbance in their aura and I'll see something small and it feels like an animal. So actually clairvoyantly in my mind's eye, I see a movement in front of them.
So are you seeing this in plain sight, or are you seeing this in your in your imagination?
It almost feels it's like imagination. It's actually
Yeah.
my third eye. It's pertinent to my mind. So to me, I almost see it. I can see it outside myself.
Right. So I think I used imagination as the wrong word.
Yeah,
So
in my
I can
third
I
eye.
can visually see you in front of me right now.
Yes.
But when you talk about a pink elephant, I can see a pink elephant not in front of me, but in my mind.
It's quite an interesting subject.
Yeah.
Interesting. I never thought about this before. But when I'm doing a psychic reading on someone, I'll see like a movement and I know that some sort of animal in
In
their
front of
life
you.
in front of me, in front of
Okay.
them.
Yeah.
I can actually see the movement.
Yeah.
I can see sparks, which is spirit, or I can see the color of the aura sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I can see the aura appearing.
Okay.
Or sometimes I can see a spirit occasionally. There was, I actually can almost physically see it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's quite see-through. So there was a lady that came to see me and all I could see was the top half of her. I could see the long white hair and I could see she was wearing pink, but it was very see-through.
Mm-hmm.
And she was buried in a pink dress. So that I could see the pink. But sometimes when I see things clairvoyantly, it sometimes happens when I'm doing a reading. So at times I've closed my eyes and then I see a face appear in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I'll see a face or a person, or at times when I completely relax, I just see something. So sometimes I see it outside myself, and sometimes I see it in my mind. But almost been something that's been put there that I haven't put there. But
Sure. So that's the way that the spirit has communicated to you through a vision
to a
as
vision,
such.
either outside or within myself,
Yeah.
but all psychically, I'm picking it up myself to my own ability, my own psychic sense. I can actually see something. So that's how it actually works. But at the same time, it's not necessarily something some other people can see. It's not pertaining to them. So it's only pertaining to me. So even though I may see a spirit standing there, which I can occasionally,
Mm-hmm.
no one else can see that.
Right. Are there other cases where both people can see the same thing?
Yes, and that's something that Susan Barnes referred to, and that's what's called physical mediumship.
All right.
So physically, it's called objective clairvoyance, and
Yeah.
everybody can see it.
Yeah. But
Whereas
there's like a physical thing.
a
But
physical
but when we're
thing,
talking about like a transparent aura.
no, there's only or transparent for an aura or transference for it. That's only pertaining to my mind, so other people can't see it.
Okay.
But saying that, if someone else is doing a reading, like a student doing a demonstration, I can go next to them and I can start picking up information. But I may not see the same as them, or I may not have other senses that I get when I get it differently.
Okay.
So clairvoyance is clear seeing. It's clear. So it's seeing in your mind's eye, or it's seeing outside yourself. So it's a vision or something. So it can be subjective or it can be objective. Everybody else can see it, but usually it's subjective.
Mm-hmm.
So, and when I started developing, I was very clairvoyant.
Okay. So
So I
you
saw,
started off by visually seeing things.
yes, I saw a
Okay.
lot of things in the beginning.
Yeah.
I see a lot less now.
Oh, interesting. So your senses have changed over time.
Yes, they have changed, and that's quite a normal thing to happen.
Yeah.
The one time I really do see an awful lot, though, clairvoyantly, is when I'm doing a healing.
Okay.
I see get lots of visions when I'm doing healings,
Yeah.
which is
Is there a
interesting.
reason for that, or do you
I
know why
have
that is?
no idea.
Okay. Yeah.
I just think I'm working a different way, and I can feel and hear, but I mainly see a lot actually when I'm doing
Mm-hmm.
healing.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
that sense kicks in quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I've seen some incredible things the time I've been doing healing as well.
Yeah. Like what?
I think the most amazing thing I saw was when I put my hands up and I saw like colors of the rainbow,
Mm-hmm.
like this light, and it came off each one of my fingers
Wow.
when I was doing a healing and I put my hands up.
Yeah.
I think when I'm working on people's chakras, which is their energy centers, which is a different podcast altogether,
Mm.
I can see the colors of coming off my hands
Mm-hmm.
of the chakra.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I can see like a smoky sort of substance come off them as well,
Wow.
which I can see. Sometimes other people have seen that also.
Mm-hmm. So other
No.
people, so you both can see the same thing sometimes.
Sometimes I've seen that.
Yeah.
And then I quite often will see, this is a really different subject again, but I might see a spirit guide.
Mm-hmm.
And the interesting thing about the spirit guide is sometimes that person has seen that spirit guide themselves, which is a different subject again, or I may see a loved one from spirit.
Wow.
So one of the most amazing things I saw when I was doing I was doing like a virtual healing. It's called a remote healing,
Mm-hmm.
and it was on this lady, and I didn't know anything about her. So first of all, I'll go into the feeling, but I go to that later. But I felt something that was wrong with her. So I felt my head and my lungs felt bad. Later on, I found out that she had cancerous conditions in her head and her lungs. So that's what I was feeling. And I had never met her. I didn't know anything about her. But what I visually saw clairvoyantly, I saw a man, and he had lost his hair, and I saw him holding her hand and tapping like this.
Mm-hmm.
And when I had a catch up with her later, she said that was my father. He used to do tapping, he used to do healing, tapping healing.
Right. And is that over Zoom, is it?
No, that was just me meditating.
Okay.
It wasn't over Zoom. So
Right.
I just asked her to lie down and meditate. And
Yep.
and I was
Oh, okay.
sending her healing, and I
Yep.
had a vision.
Yep.
Yeah, so that was clairvoyant.
Yeah.
And it made absolute sense to her.
Yeah.
So it's a really big subject.
Yeah.
And some people are very clairvoyant. So some people say it's seeing into the future. I always feel a bit mindful about future stuff. It could be, or I always see it as potential.
Sure.
Yeah.
That goes back to that podcast on fortune telling.
Yes, it does. There's
Yeah.
also remote viewing, which is another one again, which I've seen things in a remote viewing. So remote viewing, I'm going to someone else. My consciousness is going somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And I've also used this with missing people, with missing pets, with missing objects, which I've located using my senses. And I recently helped someone find a missing cat through using my senses, and one of them was clairvoyance. That's all.
Oh, okay.
So
So I remember I've got a memory of I was living at your house. Well, I was
Yes.
renting a house from you, and you had sold it,
Right.
and I was moving out of it, and we'd almost finished, or I think I'd finished moving out of it, and couldn't find the garage remote,
Right.
which was like super important because I think it was $300-400 to replace, and it was part of the sale. And I rang you saying I can't find the garage remote, and then you said it's somewhere up high in a box, somewhere in a cupboard. I thought the only place that could be would be down in the laundry. There's a cupboard, and there's a box up in that cupboard. And I went down, and there it was.
Wow.
Inside the cupboard, there was a box, and inside the box was the
Yeah.
garage remote.
And I was seeing that.
So that's clairvoyancy?
That was clairvoyant,
Yeah.
and I was seeing it.
Yeah.
And that was, also like remote viewing a little bit too, because I was seeing, my conscious been showing where it was.
Okay. Do you remember that?
I remember that very well.
Yeah. That was going back, I don't know.
A long time ago. And it was,
16 years,
and it was something that was really important.
Yeah.
When we talk about remote viewing and finding things, it's not always easy for me finding things for myself that I've lost.
Is that because you've got an emotion attached to it? It's
Absolutely.
probably blocking it.
It blocks it because I start guessing and logically. So, but with all your senses, it's very much about keeping your mind out of it. So that's what blocks you. So that's clairvoyance. It's clear seeing. It's what you see in your mind's eye, or you may see outside yourself, and it's something that you're not expecting. It just sort of is, it's like it's implanted inside your mind or your ability, and you can see it. I've seen like mediums demonstrate, and I've seen their auras, or I've seen something, but it's actually clairvoyance, which is subjective to me. Doesn't mean other people can see it.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's something you can really develop, and I'll talk about how you can develop these soon.
Yeah.
So the next sense I'd probably go to, which is clairsentience. So that's a feeling that you get. So with my podcast, I said, I feel emotional. So I most times when I was just interviewing something previously, someone, I could feel the pain, and I feel tingly. So it's a feeling. I'm picking up on their emotion. So it could be the sitter's emotion, the person I'm reading for. So I feel things. Or I can actually sometimes, which is quite difficult, I can feel things within their body. So
you're tuned into
physical body.
into their nervous system.
Yes. So I think I talked about a previous podcast about that TV presenter came up to me and I got his headache. I think I talked about that. So
Right.
I can pick up on people's like female conditions. I can pick up there's something wrong with their foot. Yeah, so I can pick up on their emotions, very much their physical. So that's what, like psychic. It also happens to me when I'm healing. So when I'm doing healing, I might get their headache or what's wrong with them. I actually get it in my own body.
Well, sounds dangerous.
I know. I've actually spoken to doctors about it, and it's like, I think it's something that it's good to give me the information, but then I ask for it to be taken away, because I don't think it's a good thing for me to keep feeling.
Sure, definitely.
I don't think it's healthy for me. I have spoken to doctors about that as well.
Okay. Yeah.
And I also feel things a lot when I might feel when say for mediumship, so spirit joins me, and then I'll feel I get like I feel I've got a heart attack. I actually feel a heart pain. I feel really sick. I could be taken down to this and like this. I did one recently. I knew the person died of a cancerous condition because the other information had given me, but it took me a while to pick up there. I can sense in me, I could definitely feel pain in my body. I can obviously, so I feel that's the language. That's how they actually communicate what I actually physically feel. The other thing, I can just sense into situations. So there was a situation recently. It was actually about a missing animal, actually, and I had a sense and a feeling of something that happened to me in previous years about somebody that was actually was close to this person that caused a lot of trouble in their life, and I was sensing that. I was picking that up. So it's also a sense. I feel this and I feel that.
Right.
So there's different types of senses as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's the clairsentience. It can be it's different things.
Yeah.
But it is a feeling of some kind. It could
Yeah.
be, well, I could feel sad, or I could feel happy, or I
Yeah.
could feel
So it could be
joyous.
like a physical nerve, or it could also be an emotional.
My
And they're
emotional.
wrapped up in the same the same
Yeah, or it
senses.
could be a feeling of experience I have, or
Yeah.
someone can ask me, or I might even have a gut feeling,
Mm-hmm.
or I think I talked to you about like not to go down that road, and I had a feeling not to do it, that feeling that you get.
Yeah.
So feeling can be quite hard to describe, so it's many things, but there is clear sentience, and it can be psychic or it can be mediumship,
Okay. Well.
both things.
Okay.
That's really quite
Yeah.
interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the next one is actually a strong one. The main ones that they talk about through SNU, Spiritual National Unit, is the 3 clears, but there is other clears as well. We call them clears. So the next one, which is, I am mainly these days clear sentient and clear audient. So I hear a lot. I think I did another podcast today, and I picked up someone's name.
Mm-hmm.
So that was given to me. So that was information given to me. So when someone's sitting in front of me, I get clear audient information.
Okay. And so that's you're hearing something.
My hearing something, but it's not me. I hear it very strongly.
Mm-hmm.
And the good thing about clear audience is that it's very accurate. It's extremely accurate, as you're witnessed.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm given something. With clairvoyance, you're describing something.
Okay.
But clear audience is extremely accurate. It's very pertinent, and it's usually one word, 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, and it's very strong, and it's very comes from nowhere, and it's just given. It makes no sense to me, but I just get given the information.
Well.
Quite often, I find that clear audience, I'm sure it comes through psychically when you get something, but I also feel that quite often clear audience comes from a different place. So with clairvoyance, I'm seeing it like your aura, or
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing something with you, or clear sentience, I'm feeling it. Clear audience, I feel it's quite often, I can't say always it has a psychic sense, but I think quite often it comes from the spirit world.
Okay. Yeah. And is it always the same voice, or is it different voices?
It's not my voice. It's very hard to explain. It's just it's like a thought.
Okay.
It's like a thought, but it's not your thought. And it's like I said, like the clairvoyance, like I can close my eyes sometimes. Recently, I was doing a reading for someone, and I saw a different face, and I saw olive skin and a moustache.
Mm-hmm.
And then she picked up who it was, someone who died recently. So I was just clairvoyantly seeing that. It was just planted inside my mind. So yeah, so I just got a vision of that when I
Yeah.
close my eyes, and it just comes, it's like planted inside your mind.
Okay. So it's not like you're hearing me now. You're hearing my voice. I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
In clear audience, you're not hearing a voice as such.
Once again, I have had situations has been outside myself. Normally it's within myself. I
Okay.
have to say
Within your
that.
mind, you hear something within
Yeah.
your mind, so it doesn't have a tone attached to it. It's kind of words that
No,
you're
but
hearing.
sometimes I feel with it.
Yeah.
So I get a voice, I hear this, it comes in, and then I sort of felt it was a man or a lady.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing, there's 2 other things that actually reminds me of. Occasionally, something's actually put into my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
I've come out with 1, 2, or 3 things that are extremely accurate and steady, pertinent. I've almost have no control of what I say. It's nothing nasty,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like I'll just say something. It could be 2 or 3 words, and it's so accurate. It's almost like that clear audience comes into my mouth, always comes through, and I go to say something, and suddenly just go something different.
Right. So they're acting through you.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
almost like it takes over my mouth. It's hard to actually explain, but that happens sometimes. Occasionally, I have been given things like warnings, and I remember one warning I was given was for my own mother, and at the time there'd been someone I knew that had a fire in their house,
Mm-hmm.
and they'd had their lights had been flashing, and my daughter at the time was warning us about the flashing lights in our house.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one morning that I woke up and it was my mum's voice, and she wasn't calling me Kerry-Marie, she was calling me Kerry. It was my mum. I could hear it was my mum's voice, and it was outside myself, and it was like, Kerry, Kerry, Kerry. And she was, because mum was very safety conscious, and I knew she was warning me about something. But 2 weeks later, our house got on fire through the lights.
Yeah. Well.
So I know that she was warning me.
Yeah.
So it was that was definitely outside. I could hear it, someone talking to me outside myself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's clairaudience,
For the audience. Okay. So we've got
clairvoyance,
clairvoyancy,
clairsentience,
clairsentience,
and
and
clairaudience.
clairaudience.
Yeah.
Is
So
there
that's,
another sense?
yeah, there's more. Well, yeah, there is. So those are the 3 that I mainly work with.
Okay.
But there's also clairgustience. So
Is that wind, is it?
no, clairgustience is taste.
Okay.
So I saw Lisa Williams doing this once. It's happened to me a few times where she said I can taste salt and vinegar chips.
Mm-hmm.
So she's talking to someone about the taste, or occasionally I just say I've got a really dry feeling in my mouth. So the person's feel they really like they were dry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What about smell? Is that in the same
Yeah.
sort of category?
Yeah, so you taste, or you may just say, oh, you got a really sweet tooth, and this person, it might be sort of like, I suppose like peppermint. You can smell, taste peppermint in your mouth. This person like peppermints.
Yeah.
So you actually taste it in your mouth.
Okay.
So sometimes, occasionally I'll get that, or a salty taste or something like that.
Yeah.
And there's definitely smell. So that's a clear sense.
Okay.
There's other names for it, but clear sense. So
Yeah.
clear sense is, I can smell things sometimes. So sometimes I'll just smell a perfume. I'll smell a sweet perfume.
Mm-hmm.
Or the person that you're doing a reading for, you say that you smell your mum around, you smell her perfume. Or she's given me a smell of lavender, or a smell of roses, or yeah. So it's like they can smell things sometimes as well, which is really interesting.
Wow. So it's very much tied into the senses that we have with our physical bodies.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's something else that people are a bit political about, and sort of a little bit opinionated about, but from personally, I've have experience. So I can only talk on what I've experienced myself. It's called claircognizance. And I've had this, and it was like just a knowing about something. It doesn't happen often. I don't know if you experience yourself, you just know something and you can't know why you know it. You just know it. So it happened to me once. It was about a situation in my life, and I was just going for a walk, and I just absolutely knew something was going to happen. I had a sense of real peace around it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought, I don't need reassurance from any other person, because I know this is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I got this huge feeling of peace around it as well. And it was something I was really stressing about, I was really worrying about, and I just knew.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like a claircognizance. But I feel that with claircognizance is that I'm a bit mindful of people say that they're claircognizant, because I come across as a bit too all-knowing.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I think it's, with all the senses, it's like, it's something to be respectful of.
Sure.
Mm.
Sure. Okay. And is that the main senses? Is it?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And so how do we develop?
You can
These-
actually really work on them.
Yeah.
So on my website, kerrymarie.co.nz, there's actually, I used to sell them, but I've done a whole series of videos about how you can develop psychically and mediumistically. So everyone, I'm saying to you now, you can all go to kerrymarie.co.nz and have a look at that. And you can develop it's free now, it's a gift.
Okay.
So I have got one on the senses, but a really good way to do it is just one meal a day is to use your senses. So how often do we just eat the meal and don't even notice we've eaten it? And I think that Amanda talked about mindful eating. It's really important to slow that eating down.
Yeah.
So I'd suggest a really good way to develop your senses is just to really use all your senses when you're eating a meal, even just once a day when you've got the time to. And so first of all, just look at all the food. Look at all the food, and then what have you got there, and what colours is it?
Mm-hmm.
What shape is it?
Mm-hmm.
What different things are on your plate? And really look into it. Like look at your meal. Or I have an exercise about like an apple, like all the different colours on the apple, and that it's round and it's got a little thing coming off it, and
Mm-hmm.
it's all different things. So really notice the food. I think it's a really good way to develop.
Mm-hmm.
And then what you can do is say to yourself, like I say the word apple. What does apple sound like? Or if I say apple to you, what does that put in your mind's eye? So say the words, or just say to yourself, I'm eating whatever it is. I'm eating lettuce today. I'm eating a carrot, and actually say the words to you about what you're actually eating.
Mm-hmm.
So be aware of that.
Yeah.
I think also is that if you cut it up, if you cut, say, an apple up or something up, or you cut your food, how it looks differently, how it changes.
Mm-hmm.
How if you cut up an apple, it goes from like maybe a red colour, and you cut it open, it's like all white inside, and you can see the various bits of pips in there.
Yeah.
So become aware of it. And then also you can actually taste it, like smell your food and taste it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's a way to really develop your senses. We might do mindful eating.
Mindful eating. Yep. Yeah, I
It's really
understand
good.
that. And
Yeah.
so that's really interesting that you, to develop your psychic senses, you actually develop your physical
Yes,
senses. So they are,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, so
Okay.
the other thing you can do for clairvoyance, which is a really good one, which really helped me open, they talk about opening a third eye.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody can do this. So all living things have an aura. I think Zane's talked about this in his podcast. And we've got an aura. So if you look at someone for long enough,
Mm-hmm.
especially against a plain wall, and you can do it at night time as well. It's really spectacular at night because it's brighter. You know, light is always brighter at night. So especially at the dark, and you'll start to see, if you just keep on looking at anyone,
Mm-hmm.
you'll start to see a white line that starts to appear. Like at the moment, I can see blue coming in here for you.
Right. Okay.
I can
What
see
does
it straight
blue mean?
away. Blue means, it means communication.
Okay, so I'm communicating right
Yeah, I
now.
can
Okay.
see it coming through your ear.
Okay.
But if you just start looking at someone,
Mm-hmm.
and you can start seeing this white, it's like bright white light, and it'll just start appearing. It's really cool. You see it start appearing,
Okay.
and it sort of goes, expands and goes like that, and you keep on looking at it.
Yeah.
And then if you keep on looking, you'll start to see different colours come in, and all the colours mean different things.
All right. And so can anyone do this?
Anyone can do it.
Wow.
It's really simple. All you got to do is keep on looking,
Yeah.
and wait for it to appear. That was my first part of my development.
Okay. I'm tempted to do it now, but then I will be distracted. So maybe afterwards.
Yeah.
Maybe over lunch.
Yeah, it'd be
Yeah.
quite cool.
Okay.
And then be mindful with the eating as well.
Yeah.
Then you can also do it with like your cat or your animal. You can start seeing their aura.
Mm-hmm.
And a really cool thing to do is to do it on plants. And if you keep on looking at trees, if you just keep on looking at trees or something, you'll start to see the aura around the trees.
Wow.
It's really awesome. So that's a really good way of developing your senses.
Mm-hmm.
The only warning I've got about senses, especially clairaudience, because I've developed it so much about listening to spirit and being aware and tuned in. I talk about like tuning in.
Yeah.
You're tuning into your senses. Is that I'm very sensitive to sound and bright lights and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I went to see this band called the Pixies, and I couldn't handle it. I had to walk out because the clashing lights and the clashing sounds. I just could not. It just ruined me. I couldn't do it.
Right. It was just overwhelming.
Overwhelming. So it can be like air conditioning can feel too much for me, or just
Yeah.
background noise. I have to really just say nothing to people when I can be quite stressed when some noises, especially my husband's into really loud music. I find it really difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So it
Just
can actually,
overloading your sense. Yeah.
yeah, because what happens, you become you develop your senses and you become quite sensitive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That makes complete sense.
Yeah, so that's the only thing about it.
Yeah. Okay. And
Yeah.
so when we're talking about going back to all the senses, when we're talking about smell and clairvoyancy, like seeing stuff or hearing stuff in the audience, how do we stop our mind getting in the way of that? Because I'm just thinking about myself. If I'm tuned to this clear audience and I don't have a strong
Yeah, yeah.
sense, like say yourself, that's been doing it, got a strong sense of it. I might be tempted to fill, put information myself into that I think I'm hearing. Is that a common
Yeah,
thing? And
it's a
what's
100.
some strategies to?
It's 100%.
Okay.
It's very, very hard, especially it's extremely hard when someone asks you a question. So I always say to people, say for a reading, can we do that at the end, not at the beginning of the reading? I leave the
Yeah.
questions to the end.
Right.
And if I'm doing a demonstration on someone, I just say, can you confirm? I don't want information, I want confirmation.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's called energy, it builds the energy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very, very difficult to keep the mind out of it. It's like, so it's actually being aware and being honest with yourself. You have got this, the logical mind is so powerful. And we want to answer questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we want people to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to satisfy people. And so just because someone asks your questions, you don't have to answer it straight away.
Okay.
So what I tend to do is I just sort of say to people, oh, can I come back to that? Or I'm aware that I'm trying to work it out.
Mm-hmm.
I think Charlie Seaman talked about searching for information, not being given it.
Yeah.
So I think it's one to be honest with yourself, to have integrity and authentic, and be aware that your mind will come in the way.
Right.
And your mind will also try to make sense of things, or try to make sense of information you're given, interpret it the wrong way as well.
Yeah.
So it's just trying to continually, it's almost like a discipline, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's continually trying to put your mind aside
Yes. Yes.
all the time.
Yes.
And it's not about being right.
Yeah.
It's not about our egos. It's about, okay, I'll push that to the side and I'm going to allow these senses to come through.
Okay. So it
And
sounds like there's
a
lot of practice in this, right? Because
yes.
I can see how easily your imagination or your mind can get in the way of it and trying to interpret between the two. But I guess the more you do it, the more sensitive to being able to distinguish between what's
practice.
your own influence and what's actually what you actually are sensing.
And practice makes perfect. And
Yeah.
as I'm particularly tested when I come across a really skeptical person,
Mm-hmm.
that's very difficult. And they want black and white answers. And because some of the information that comes with spirit is extremely accurate, but extremely cryptic.
Right, so it can be a little bit abstract.
It can be abstract, but it actually, well, I'll give you an example about the Labrador dog. I don't know if I mentioned that in the podcast.
Not that I remember.
No, so this is a really interesting one where there was some people that paid me for a reading and they couldn't find their son. They're from overseas. They got hold of me and their son and their brother had gone missing.
Mm-hmm.
And they were, of course, are really stressed about it. And they came to me to try and help find their relative. And they even sent me things the last time they were seen and all sorts of things. And they wanted me to give them the exact area and the exact number and the exact address. And even though in some ways I've helped with that sort of information through sense and better, through using my senses, it was just too black and white. It was too logical. I just couldn't give it to them. And I got really I was really sort of like searching, which is not the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And people have this expectation where they, excuse me, have some water.
Mm-hmm.
Some people have an expectation. They're paying you and they want the answers. And of course you want to help them.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried really hard, but I just couldn't really. I just couldn't get the information until I really relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been on for a number of days. And I went for a walk around Western Springs. And I was completely relaxed. And I just felt I was getting some information. Out of the blue, I was completely relaxed. And I was given, I think the spirit were giving it to me. They gave me a black Labrador dog. Now, what's that got to do with a missing person? Logically, it makes no sense, does it?
No.
But I knew I had to tell them that that's all I've got. I can't get everything. I'm trying, but this is all I can get. And they said, oh my goodness. I said, that is so relevant. And I said, why is a black Labrador dog so relevant? I understand. I said, because our brother lost his black Labrador dog, and the black Labrador dog found its way back to him.
Wow.
And I said, well, there's your answer.
Yeah.
Your brother, your relative, is going to find their way back to them, to you. Stop stressing. Guess what? He turned up. He
Wow.
found his way back to them.
Wow. And so it was it was almost like an analogy. The black Labrador dog.
I was
right?
given that information.
Okay. Wow.
And that's what it meant. And
Yeah.
it was such a small bit of information, but it meant so much. I got this piece and I thought, I've done my job.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until, it's what Charlie said, like, let it be given to you. Don't try to search for it. Don't just get it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that's how it works. So that's how I realize. And it's also a little bit like I have to wait sometimes. So people ask me information and I have to sometimes wait to be given the information.
Yeah.
And it's usually given through my senses. So it could be a vision, or it could be a memory, or it could be some words. I'm just given something. And they always say to me, I don't know, what does that mean? I say, I don't know what it means. You know what it means.
Yeah.
So it means something to them, not to me.
You're just passing on the message.
I'm the messenger.
So
that's how I
deciphering it for them.
So that's how I do it.
Yeah. Wow. Very interesting.
Yeah, and this is. I also talk about my messages from spirit cards as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that was all given to me clear audiently.
Okay.
So none of it was given to me. Because it was all clear. I was clear audiently. So, but I was given a sense that I should write them.
Mm-hmm.
And so they tested them out on someone, and it really made them emotional. So I knew this was quite true and quite honest. But the interesting thing about the cards is that when I start reading them, sometimes I get a sense that there's a spirit connected to them. I'll get an image, I'll get a sense, a feeling. So they're working with the cards, which is really interesting how it all works.
They pick a card and use that card.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you described the senses. You've given some really good explanations of your own experiences with the senses. We talked about how to develop those senses, and that's through things like mindful eating. So I guess working on our physical senses that we have.
Like smelling and
smelling and taking your time and
tasting.
Is there other ways? Is there any other strategies?
I just think it's just not really. I think that's a really good way to work on it, and I think also maybe like doing meditation's really good. So the meditation's really good because what meditation does, it allows you to put your logical mind aside. So what I do with meditation is I say to people, just put it into a box or a jar. And just know it's been taken care of. It's been looked after. And then just breathing's really good. So focus on your breathing is so good. It centers you and calms you down. Or you can do like relaxation exercises about closing your fists and relaxing it and get yourself into a really relaxed state and breathing. And then just allow. So sometimes what happens with meditation, it calms your mind down. And then it actually allows you to start tuning into your senses. So first of all, you could start, I think Charlie once again talked about being in the power. So you can go into the senses and the power of yourself. So through meditation, my higher self spoke to me. It was actually my higher self. From your higher self, when you go into meditation, can give you information. It may give you a vision, or it may give you a word. And one day I got extremely emotional. It was really embarrassing at a retreat because I did this meditation and I took people to their soul, and my soul spoke to me, and my soul gave me one word, and it gave me kind. And I got very emotional about this because I knew that no matter what happened through my whole life, I've been born with this kindness, with being kind. And it made me really emotional because I knew it stayed with me, and I realized how hard it is in this world to be kind because people can see kindness as a form of weakness.
Right.
And that was my soul, and it's who I was.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it made me very emotional. So you can actually tune into yourself, and your own your higher self and your soul will talk to you. And then by going into that, you can always start attuning to the spirit world, and you may see colours. So that's clairvoyancy. So you'll start seeing colours, beautiful colours, and you might see beautiful shapes, and then you may hear some beautiful sounds, or hear something beautiful, and you may start seeing. You may see a hand, and you may feel that hand, or you may see a face, or you may see an animal, or all sorts of things, or you may be given things like you might be given a piece of jewelry, or you may see a plant or something like that. So, or you may smell something. You may say, or in the meditation, and so what meditation does, it puts you into what you call an altered state. So when you go into that altered state, you're able to attune not just to yourself, but to the spirit world. And you can actually work with your senses through meditation as well. That's another good way to develop.
Yeah, because I imagine if you're stressed, anxious, or you've just been busy, whatever, that would probably make you unsensitive at those times, right?
Absolutely.
So doing that meditation will able to sort of put those things aside and really tune in. Yeah.
And something that just came to mind as well, that if you are developing psychically or mediumistically, is that your senses will often change.
Okay.
So don't be worried about, because somebody said, I can never see anything, it doesn't matter. So you don't have to see. And you don't have to hear, and you don't have to feel. It's just whatever works for you, and it can change over time. And then for me, I sort of probably interact with all of them now, but some are more dominant than others.
Yeah.
So don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Yes, but and the other thing you can do is just start picking up an object. Like I've got a crystal, and it's got quite a sharp end on it. I can feel that. I can see through it. It's got a lot of clarity. I can see something in the middle of it. It's sort of shaped a bit like a diamond, isn't it? And it's got these other bits going around, and I can see that. And I can hold it, and I can feel that, and I can say quartz crystal, and that puts something on your mind. So even describing objects can really help. So at one point, we're going to do different podcasts. We're going to do one about remote viewing and missing animals, people, or objects. The other thing we can do is psychometry as well. So how you work with psychometry and how you can use that. And psychometry is having an object and tuning into the object using the senses. So that's something we'll do on a different podcast.
Oh, sounds excellent. Looking forward to it.
So thanks for today, Andre. It's been really good.
Thank
you. I'm hoping that I've helped you today have some depth of understanding or clarity when it comes to the senses. You're not going to have all your answers at once. You can get further information on my website, kerry-marie.co.nz. You can also go purchase my Message from Spirit cards. Also, my book, Breaking Three, through kerry-marie.co.nz, or book a reading there as well. Also, if you've liked this podcast, please like it, and we'd love you to subscribe to our channel, because then it'll be a lot easier for you to find my podcast, Spiritual Truth, which is available on Spotify and also YouTube. Lovely spending time with you. Blessings and love, Kerry-Marie.